Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content of this channel. None of it is ever sponsored. We pay for everything ourselves, and we do this because it's fun. Anyways, today we're going to talk about the power for the bed in the back of the Gladiator. We've got a lot of people who've discussed adding 12-volt outlets to it, adding the 110-volt outlet, which I did in another video. I'll send put a link somewhere here. But how are we going to get power to the back? Other people have talked about adding a secondary battery, all kinds of different ideas. And I'm just going to run through with you what I've done with my system to make it easy. It's changed, it's moved, I've modified the idea as I've gone along and learned some new things. The very first thing that I did was I went ahead and I ran power from the battery all the way to the back, and I ran it through the frame. I'm going to take you over and show you. I put a 60 amp breaker in, and I ran, I believe it's 6 or 8 gauge wire. I don't need to run 100 amps. That's a lot of power. 60 amps is the max. And the only reason I put that in is because originally what I was going to do is put a DC to DC charger for a 100 amp hour lithium ion battery that I purchased. I'm going to put that in the back in this cool little battery box. But let me show you the connection. Let's see the connection. So the very first thing I did, like I said, was I ran power, which you can see here. This is pretty strong 6 or 8 gauge wire run all the way to the back with a 60 amp resettable circuit breaker. And this is run, I made this custom little mount to hold the circuit breaker in. I fabricated this out of aluminum. So we run from here, come right off the battery, 60 amp breaker, back down through the frame, and then we go to the back of the bed where everything is there. So back here, I did another video before on how to install this 110 volt outlet into the in the bed. It is an option that runs about $1,000 from the dealer, but you can buy the parts. If you have the inverter already installed, so there's power in the back seat, you can install the outlet in the back for about $200 in parts. And I do have that other video. We'll post it. You can find it. Anyway, so what I have done, my 60 amp wires, let me take these off, are here. And I just put this carabiner on there to keep them organized, so to speak. Take this off one by one. There. So this is 60 amp power coming from my battery right here. And I've got this Anderson connector on here. The reason I did this is because I wanted to be able to plug into my DC to DC converter that I had mounted here. I've since taken it off because I've decided not to do that. And right now this Anderson connector goes right into my Garmin Power Switch. The Garmin Power Switch provides 6 30 amp fuse protected outlets from a single power source. And it's nice because you have buttons right here inside the bed, and I just mounted that to the bed rail track and made a little mount for it and mounted it right there so I didn't have to put it on. I did add this really cool grounding block that I got off Amazon. You can find them anywhere. I think it was about 15 bucks. But I needed a way to ground everything because the power switch only has one ground wire right here, and then everything else goes to ground. I like this. It gives me a really good secure ground where I can see everything, and all of my separate individual powered items come through here. So here I've got my interior lights, which are these right here. Up here, if you look up the top, those, and also up here on the end. These provide nighttime light inside the bed. Those are made by Lux Lighting. They're incredibly great lights, and they're magnetic. So they magnetize to my cap, they stay right there, and they're super bright. I've got 2 inside, I've got 2 on the outside up here, and then I've got 2 on each of the doors or windows that open up on the cap itself. When I turn off all of those on, man, it lights up the entire campsite. You don't need anything else. And they're low wattage, so they're not using a ton of battery. I also have my rock lights on here, and then this one powers my external power strips that I built for my Front Runner Designs rack. So I built this little custom mount for the Front Runner rack because whenever I wanted to buy one from Front Runner, they were out of stock. You can get this little plastic gizmic from Amazon for like 20 bucks. And so I made this mount out of steel that this mounts right to, wired it right in. I can turn it on and off outside. I've got two USB ports, and I've also got a 12-volt port, and it shows me how much battery I have, what the status of my battery is, easily glancing at it. That gives me plenty of power. I've got one of these on each side of my truck. And fabricating this was kind of cool. I might actually do a video on just how I made it. But let me show you guys the process with that. And it mounts up to the factory hardware. Like I said, I've got one on each side, so when I pop open the rooftop tent, I can easily pass any cables or USB things right over here, and I got plenty of power there to plug all those in. In the back of the truck, for now, I have my 110 volt outlet that I installed. I don't have any 12 volt USBs or anything because they're right there on the outside of the truck. I can't think of anything that I would need to run off a 12 volt or USB while I was driving, but if I did, I would just use the Jackery that I have. Otherwise, I do have the ability to put a 12 volt outlet right on the Garmin Power Switch as well. Again, it gives you 6 30 amp outlets that are selectable on the outside via the face, or you can use the Power Switch app on your phone, which is really nice because if you're in your rooftop tent, you want to turn on the rock lights or the side lights that you have, or your pod lights, things like that. You can do it right from wherever you are, and you don't have to go right up to the truck. So sometimes maybe you're sitting by the campfire and the kids say, "Dad, we want to get in the rooftop tent." Well, great, you can turn on the pod lights, the cargo lights, the side lights, whatever it is, and they'll have plenty of illumination around the truck without even having to get up and put your beer down. So what's really cool is if you go into the Garmin Tread, go into Power Switch, and you've got the same features and functionality that you would have on your iPhone, but from inside the cab. So you don't even have to turn you don't have to go to your phone to do it. You can turn everything on outside, just like this. And of course, you also have all the mapping features and all that kind of stuff. Initially, I bought a 100 amp hour lithium ion battery to run all of my stuff off of. That's one of the reasons why I put the Anderson connector in there. And I left that extra 2 feet of length so that if I wanted to hook anything up to the car battery, I could. But the 100 amp hour battery, I bought a simple box for it. I'll show you a picture of that. I bought a simple box for it that has a 12 volt outlet, a USB outlet, has all the things that the other Switch has, the voltmeter. The problem was I still need to have a way to lock the battery down, and the battery still weighs an extra 20 pounds. I also use the Jackery so much. It's 100 amp hours, and I got a 50 amp hour and 100 amp hour Jackery, and those provide me more than enough power where I don't really need that external 100 amp hour battery. So I've been leaving it at home because it saves me weight in the truck. And I'd rather use the Jackery. It has more features, more capability. It's easier to recharge because you can just lay out the solar panels and charge it right up. So I decided not to do the secondary battery because it's so heavy. I decided not to do the 100 amp hour battery. I still have it and I can use it if I want to, but it just saves me weight hooking it up like this, and I've never used so much power that I had an issue with my main battery going dead. Now, one thing I would like to do is they've come out with a new battery called the anti-gravity battery, and I talked about this in my SEMA video. In fact, we might put a short clip of it here. But the anti-gravity battery is a lithium-ion battery that's a 60 amp hour battery. It's a replacement for your OEM battery, and your OEM battery is going to cost you $200-300 bucks. The anti-gravity battery is about $1,000, but it gives you 1,800 cranking amps. It gives you 60 amp hours of lithium-ion battery, which is it's so much power. And if you ever run it dead, completely dead, you have a key fob or a button on top of the battery. Press that button, and it will provide you enough power to at least start the vehicle and get you back up where you can charge the battery back up. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's going to save 40 pounds of weight on the battery that I have in it now. And I can't think of another modification that you can make that will actually reduce weight and give you more power. So yeah, it's a little expensive, but I think it's going to be well worth it. That's probably going to be coming up in another video once I get the okay from the boss to do that. So I have to be on to something nice for Valentine's Day, because otherwise I don't get the approval. Anyhow, and you know, once I get it done in mine, she's going to want it done later as well. Anyway, so that's the quick rundown of the power system that I have in my truck, and how I power everything, all the accessories that I have, the Lux lighting system, the bed lights, the accessories that plug into the outlets, and yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear what other people have done in their Gladiators to supply power back there. I've seen some really good videos on what other people have done and took some inspiration from those also. So shout out to those other videos, and any comments you have, leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate your viewership. Thank you.